Alright, so I just got a few more errands done. So I thought I'd just probably try get through the chapter today, um, just for the playlist. Just before, I don't know, I might have a nap later. I got night shift later, so I thought I'd try get the chapter done. Before I rest up. So I'll continue on with the pillow under the key. One of the fairy tales that speak of a third possibility for men, a third mode, is a story called Iron John, or Iron Hans. Though it was first set down by the Grimm brothers around 1820, this story could be 10 or 20,000 years old. As the story starts, we find out that something strange has been happening in a remote area of the forest near the king's castle. When the hunters go into this area, they disappear and never come back. 20 others go after the first group and do not come back. In time, people begin to get the feeling that there's something weird in that part of the forest, and they don't go there anymore. One day, an unknown hunter shows up at the castle and says, "What can I do? Anything dangerous to do around here?" The king says, "Well, I could mention the forest, but there's a problem. The people who go out there don't come back. The return rate is not good." "That's just the sort of thing I like," the young man says. So he goes into the forest, and interestingly, he goes there alone, taking only his dog. The young man and his dog wander about in the forest, and they go past a pond. Suddenly, a hand reaches up from the water, grabs the dog, and pulls it down. The young man doesn't respond by becoming hysterical. He merely says, "This must be the place." Fond as he is of his dog, and reluctant as he is to abandon him, the hunter goes back to the castle, rounds up 3 more men with buckets, and then comes back to the pond to bucket out the water. Anyone who's ever tried it will quickly note that such bucketing is very slow work. In time, what they find lying on the bottom of the pond is a large man covered with hair from head to foot. The hair is reddish. It looks a little like rusty iron. They take the man back to the castle and imprison him. The king puts him in an iron cage in the courtyard, calls him Iron John, and gives the key into the keeping of the queen. Let's stop the story here for a second. When a contemporary man looks down into his psyche, he may, if conditions are right, find under the water of his soul, lying in an area no one has visited for a long time, an ancient hairy man. The mythological systems associate hair with the instinctive and the sexual and the primitive. What I'm suggesting then is that every modern male has, lying at the bottom of his psyche, a large primitive being covered with hair down to his feet. Making contact with this wild man is the step the 80s male or the 90s male has yet to take. That bucketing out process has yet to begin in our contemporary culture. As the story suggests very delicately, there's more than a little fear around this hairy man, as there is around all change. When a man begins to develop the receptive side of himself and gets over his initial skittishness, he usually finds the experience to be wonderful. He gets to write poetry and go out and sit by the ocean. He doesn't have to be on top all the time in sex anymore. He becomes the empathetic. It's a new, humming, surprising world. But going down through water to touch the wild man at the bottom of the pond is quite a different matter. The being who stands up is frightening and seems even more so now. When the corporations do so much work to produce the sanitized, hairless, shallow man, when a man welcomes his responsiveness, or what we sometimes call his internal woman, he often feels warmer, more companionable, more alive. But when he approaches what I'll call the deep male, he feels risk. Welcoming the hairy man is scary and risky, and it requires a different sort of courage. Contact with Iron John requires a willingness to descend into the male psyche and accept what's dark down there, including the nourishing dark. For generations now, the industrial community has warned young businessmen to keep away from Iron John, and the Christian church is not too fond of him either. Freud, Jung, and William Reich are three investigators who had the courage to go down into the pond and to accept what they found down there. The job of contemporary men is to follow them down. Some men have already done this work, and the hairy man has been brought up from the pond in their psyches and lives in the courtyard. In the courtyard suggests that the individual or the culture has brought him into a sunlight place where all can see him. That is itself some advance over keeping the hairy man. That is itself some advance over keeping the hairy man in a cellar where many elements in every culture want him to be. But of course, in either place, he's still in a cage. I don't know if this is... no, we're still in chapter 1. But this part of the story is called the Loss of the Golden Ball. It's what I was speaking a little bit about in the first video for the playlist. So we're still in chapter 1. Now back to the story. One day, the king's 8-year-old son is playing in the courtyard with the golden ball he loves, and it rolls into the wild man's cage. If the young boy wants the ball back, he's going to have to approach the hairy man and ask him for it. But this is going to be a problem. The golden ball reminds us of that unity of personality we had as children, a kind of radiance, a wholeness, before we split into male and female, rich and poor, bad and good. The ball is golden, as the sun is, and round like the sun. It gives off a radiant energy from the inside. We notice that the boy is 8. All of us, whether boys or girls, lose something around the age of 8. If we still have the golden ball in kindergarten, we lose it in grade school. Whatever is still left of it, we lose in high school. In The Frog Prince, the princess's ball fell into a well. Whether we are male or female, once the golden ball is gone, we spend the rest of our lives trying to get it back. The first stage in retrieving the ball, I think, is to accept firmly, definitely, that the ball has been lost. Freud said, what a distressing contrast there is between the radiant intelligence of the child and the feeble mentality of the average adult. So where is the golden ball? Speaking metaphorically, we could say that the 60s culture told men they would find their golden ball in sensitivity, receptivity, cooperation, and non-aggressiveness. But many men gave up all aggressiveness and still did not find the golden ball. The Iron John story says that a man can't expect to find the golden ball in the feminine realm, because that's not where the golden ball is. A bridegroom secretly asks his wife to give him back. A bridegroom secretly asks his wife to give him back the golden ball. I think she'd give it to him if she could, because most women, in my experience, do not try to block men's growth. But she can't give it to him because she doesn't have it. What's more, she's lost her own golden ball and can't find that either. Oversimplifying, we could say that the 50s male always wants a woman to return his golden ball. The 60s and 70s man, with equal lack of success, asks his interior feminine to return it. The Iron John story proposes that the golden ball lies within the magnetic field of the wild man, which is a very hard concept for us to grasp. We have to accept the possibility that the true radiant energy in the female does not reside in, or wait for us in the feminine realm, nor in the macho John Wayne realm, but in the magnetic field of the deep masculine. It is protected by the instinctive one who's underwater and who has been there we don't know how long. In the Frog Prince, it's the frog, the unnice one, the one that governs, the one that everyone says ick to, who brings the golden ball back. And in the Grimm Brothers version, the frog himself turns into the prince, only when a hand throws him against the wall. Most men want some nice person to bring the ball back, but the story hints that we won't find the golden ball in the force field of an Asian guru, or even the force field of gentle Jesus. Our story is not anti-Christian, but pre-Christian by 1,000 years or so. And its message is still true. Getting the golden ball back is incompatible with certain kinds of conventional tameness and niceness. The kind of wildness or unniceness implied by the wild man image is not the same as macho energy, which men already know enough about. Wild man energy, by contrast, leads to forceful action undertaken, not with cruelty, but with resolve. The wild man is not opposed to civilization, but he's not completely contained by it either. The ethical superstructure of popular Christianity does not support the wild man, though there is some suggestion that Christ himself did. At the beginning of his ministry, a hairy John, after all, baptized him. That's very interesting. When it comes time for a young male to talk with the wild man, he will find the conversation quite distinct from a talk with a minister, a rabbi, or a guru. Conversing with the wild man is not talking about bliss or mind or spirit or higher consciousness, but about something wet, dark, and low, what James Hillman would call soul. I love James Hillman. He's a good therapist. The first step amounts to approaching the cage and asking for the golden ball back. Some men are ready to take that step, while others haven't yet bucketed the water out of the pond. They haven't left the collective male identity and gone out into the unknown area alone, or gone with only their dog. The story says that after the dog goes down, one has to start to work with buckets. No giant is going to come along and suck out all the water for you. That magic stuff is not going to help. And a weekend at Esalen won't do it. Acid or cocaine won't do it. The man has to do it bucket by bucket. This resembles the slow discipline of art. It's the work that Rembrandt did, that Picasso and Yeats and Relik and Bach did. Bucket work implies much more discipline than most men realize. The wild man, as the writer Keith Thompson mentioned to me, is not simply going to hand over the golden ball either. What kind of story would it be if the wild man said, well, okay, here's your ball? Jung remarked that all successful requests to the psyche involve deals. The psyche likes to make deals. If part of you, for example, is immensely lazy and doesn't want to do any work, a flat-out New Year's resolution won't do any good. The whole thing will go better if you say to the lazy part, you let me work for an hour and I'll let you be a slob for an hour. Deal? So in Iron John, a deal is made. The wild man agrees to give the golden ball back if the boy opens the cage. The boy, apparently frightened, runs off. He doesn't even answer. Isn't that what happens? We have been told so often by parents, ministers, grade school teachers, and high school principals that we should have nothing to do with the wild man. That when he says, I'll return the ball if you let me out of the cage, we don't even reply. Oh yeah, 17 minutes. Maybe 10 years pass now. On the second day, the man could be 25. He goes back to the wild man and says, could I have my ball back? The wild man says, yes, if you let me out of the cage. Actually, just returning to the wild man a second time is a marvelous thing. Some men never come back at all. The 25-year-old man hears the sentence all right. But by now he has 2 Toyotas and a mortgage, maybe a wife and a child. How can you let the wild man out of the cage? A man usually walks away the second time also without saying a word. Now 10 more years pass. Let's say the man is now 35. Have you ever seen the look of dismay on the face of a 35-year-old man? Feeling overworked, alienated, empty, he asks the wild man with full heart this time, could I have my golden ball back? Yes, the wild man says, if you let me out of my cage. Now something marvelous happens in the story. The boy speaks to the wild man and continues the conversation. He says, even if I wanted to let you out, I couldn't because I don't know where the key is. That's so good. By the time we are 35, we don't know where the key is. It isn't exactly what we have forgotten. We never knew where it was in the first place. The story says that when the king locked up the wild man, he gave the key into the keeping of the queen. But we were only about 7 then, and in any case our father never told us what he had done with it. So where is the key? I've heard audiences try to answer that one. It's around the boy's neck. No. It's hidden in Iron John's cage. No. It's inside the golden ball. No. It's inside the castle, on a hook, inside the treasure room. No. It's in the tower. It's on a hook high up on the wall. No. The wild man replies, the key is under your mother's pillow. The key is not inside the ball, nor in the golden chest, nor in the safe. The key is under our mother's pillow. just where Freud said it would be. Getting the key back from under the mother's pillow is a troublesome task. Freud, taking advice from a Greek play, says that a man should not skip over the mutual attraction between himself and his mother if he wants a long life. The mother's pillow, after all, lies in the bed, near where she makes love to your father. Moreover, there's another implication attached to the pillow. Michael Mead, the myth teller, once remarked to me that the pillow is also the place where the mother stores all her expectations for you. She dreams, my son the doctor, my son the Jungian analyst, my son the Wall Street genius. But very few mothers dream, my son the wild man. On the son's side, he isn't sure he wants to take the key. Simply transferring the key from the mother's to a guru's pillow won't help. Forgetting the mother possesses it is a bad mistake. A mother's job is, after all, to civilize the boy, and so it is natural for her to keep the key. All families behave alike on this planet. The king gives the key into the keeping of the queen. Attacking the mother, confronting her, shouting at her, which some Freudians are prone to urge on us, probably does not accomplish much. She may just smile and talk to you with her elbow on the pillow. Oedipus' conversations with Jocasta never did much good, nor did Hamlet's shouting. A friend mentioned that it's wise to steal the key someday when your mother and father are gone. My father and mother are away today implies a day when the head is free of parental inhibitions. That's the day to steal the key. Gioia Tampanelli, the writer and storyteller, remarked that mythologically the theft of the key belongs to the world of Hermes. And the key has to be stolen. I recall talking to an audience of men and women once about this problem of stealing the key. A young man, obviously well trained in New Age modes of operation, said, "Robert, I'm disturbed by this idea of stealing the key. Stealing isn't right. Couldn't a group of us just go to the mother and say, 'Mum, could I have the key back?'" His model was probably consensus. The way the staff at the health food stores settles things. I felt the souls of all women in the room rise up in the air to kill him. Men like that are as dangerous to women as they are to men. No mother worth her salt would give the key away anyway. If a son can't steal it, he doesn't deserve it. I want to let the wild man out. Come over and give mummy a kiss. Mothers are intuitively aware of what would happen if you got the key. They would lose their boys. The possessiveness that mothers typically exercise on sons, not to mention the possessiveness that fathers typically exercise on daughters, can never be underestimated. The means of getting the key back varies with each man, but suffice it to say that democratic or non-linear approaches will not carry the day. One rather stiff young man danced one night for about 6 hours vigorously, and in the morning remarked, "I got some of the key back last night." Another man regained the key when he acted like a wholehearted trickster for the first time in his life, remaining fully conscious of the tricksterism. Another man stole the key when he confronted his family and refused to carry any longer the shame for the whole family. We could spend days talking of how to steal the key in a practical way. The story itself leaves everything open and simply says, one day he stole the key, brought it to the wild man's cage and opened the lock. As he did so, he pinched one of his fingers. That detail will become important in the next part of the story. The wild man is then free at last, and it's clear that he will go back to his own forest, far from the castle. $25. We'll leave it there. I think we're just over halfway, the first chapter. So, we'll leave it there. I'm gonna go nap. Ugh. Good luck to yous. Yeah, good luck to yous. See you next one. See you on the next video.